Hello everybody and welcome to the weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. This being for the week of November 20th to the 26th of 2017. Only 3 titles from last week remain on the list, and we have 4 brand new light novels occupying spots 1, 2, 3, and 4. So lots of change up in the top end. And actually a few titles making returns to this list from a number of months ago. In fact, one of which I remember we talked about, and we will talk about when we get there, about how it was kind of cool in one particular aspect. So let's get right into the list. At number 10, with 7,432 copies sold, it's the 4th volume of Tensei Shite Inaka de Slow Life wo Okuritai. It's also known as I Want to Live a Slow Life in the Countryside After Reincarnation. There's no English license for this series. The protagonist, Inaka Yuji, was run over by a truck because his awareness was dulled from overworking. With this, I don't have to work so much anymore. I want to spend my next life leisurely, was the wish Yuji blurted out. He met God, and it was decided he will be reincarnated in the countryside of another world. He became Alfred Slowlet, second son of a countryside noble. Will he be able to enjoy and leisurely spend his slow life in the countryside? I love seeing themes amongst novels that come out, and you see this sort of, we've seen a couple of themes in isekais, it seems, over the last couple of weeks, and that is either the I'm reincarnated so powerful, but I'm doing everything I can to hide it because I don't want my life to get complicated. Or this other one where it's like you have worked yourself to the bone as a slave to the system, and now you just want to relax, and you actually see your reincarnation as an opportunity to have a more chill life. I'm not too sure what these things say about Japanese society, although I could probably take a few guesses. At number 9, with 8,038 copies sold, volume 22 of Accel World. Pretty far tumble for this one. It was number 1 last week, all the way down to number 9 on the list. Now, of course, this is another series by Areki Kawahara of Sword Art fame. The light novels are licensed in English and published via Yen On. They're releasing the 12th volume in December. There was a 24-episode anime which aired April to September of 2012, which covered volumes 1 to 4 and borrowed a little bit from the short story volume, which was volume number 10. So yes, you can get this available in English. In fact, the video after this one is going to be my review of volume 11 of Accel World. It is one of those series that I generally have enjoyed. In fact, I would say that I've enjoyed it more than Sword Art Online for a variety of reasons, many of which I've covered in my review videos. But still, it's funny how this is obviously like a popular series, but even though it started publication before Sword Art, it really has never, I don't think, attained the same level of fame that Sword Art has. I mean, if we take a look at it, like this one right now is already dropped down in the list, and it's only sold 62,744 copies to date. I mean, Sword Art at this point, the last volume of Sword Art 20, I think had sold well over 150,000. So it's just kind of interesting to me to see how an author can have a variety of works which are fairly close in publication, but yet be so widely different in terms of like the amount of audience that it has. I'm really not too sure why it is that Accel World never really caught on the same way that Sword Art did. I think that I have to wonder if it's because the characters choose to participate in the accelerated world, whereas Sword Art had that element of being trapped. And I think that still Sword Art does more of a power fantasy than what Accel World is. We can certainly argue that Haruyuki has a fairly wide variety of a harem, but their romantic intentions, I don't think, are ever as overt as the girls that surround Kirito. And Haruyuki seems to constantly struggle to overcome obstacles, where, of course, we know Kirito is just OP as OP. I kind of wonder if that's maybe part of the difference between these series, but that's just me filling time and speculating. Let me know, if you've read both of these series. Let me know which one in the comments, which one you like best. And if you've got any ideas why you think Sword Art's really kind of caught on more than Accel World, let me know. Because, it is kind of, both deal with virtual reality gaming, one being more of a sword and sorcery gaming, the other being like a fighting game. I wonder if maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe the RPG aspect just speaks to more people. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. At number 8, with 8,366 copies sold, Volume 2 of Kami-tachi ni Hirowareta Otoko, aka The Man Picked Up by the Gods. There's no English license for the series, not too surprising with it only being 2 volumes. Takabayashi Ryoma, a 39-year-old man with a hidden past, found himself in a strange white room. The gods tell him that he has died, and that they are sending his soul to a different world, a world where magic exists. After living alone for 3 years, his gamer soul loses its common sense and starts along crazy routes. Another isekai about a loner gamer character, although just based on this very brief description, it sounds to me like the shtick of this one is that he truly and wholeheartedly loses his mind now that he's living in a gaming world or a gaming type world. I don't know exactly how that can play out. I could think of a few ways which would be interesting. But the problem is, like, just based on that little blurb, it just sounds too similar to a lot of the other stuff that we have, so At number 7, with 11,464 copies sold, Volume 7 of World Teacher, Isekaishiki Kyouiku Agent, aka World Teacher, Other World Style Education and Agent. There is no English license for the series. A man who was once called the world's strongest agent ended up becoming a teacher after his retirement to train the next generation of agents. After many years of training his disciples, he is killed at the age of 60 by the ploy of a secret organization and was reincarnated in another world with all his past memories. Though he was surprised by the magic and the strange species of that world, he adapted very fast to his condition as a newborn and took advantage of it. He acquired special magic and gained a massive amount of strength thanks to his tight discipline in order to reach his goal, resume his career as a teacher, which he left halfway through in his previous life. This is the story of a man who, based on the memories and the experiences of his previous life, became a teacher who travels through the world with his new students. What do you guys think of that? It sounds kind of interesting. I just kind of wonder, like, he's teaching, when they say agents, there's definitely no secret organization killed him. It definitely seems to suggest sort of like spy agency. That's what I get out of it. Or like, some kind of secret agent. And I just kind of wonder, like, what kind of teaching, if you're teaching secret agents, what kind of teaching would you do now in a world of magic and sorcery? Like, are you teaching like magical assassins or something? Like, I don't know. Without knowing more about this series, like, this could be like a really crazy series. Like, just consider for a second a character whose goal is to become like basically a secret agent in a swords and sorcery type world, and then starts training other people. Like, to me, all I can think of is, well, the closest thing that I can think of is like the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim. Basically like magically endowed like assassins for hire. or, you know, even being hired as bodyguards and stuff. Like, it could be really interesting if it was taking that approach, but I don't know if it does or if it would. But if it went that way, that would be like, I could see myself getting into a series like that, especially if it was sort of like that sort of anti-hero, like kind of walking sort of a gray line between good and evil. I think that could be really cool, but again, I don't know if it goes that way, and I don't know if I'll ever find out because there's no English license. At number 6, with 12,266 copies sold, Volume 10 of Rokudenashi Majutsu Koushi to Akashic Records. So the Akashic Records of the Bastard Magical Instructor. Of course, we've talked about this one before. There's no English license for the light novels. Seven Seas has licensed the manga version. They're releasing the second volume of the manga in December. And there was a 12-episode anime which just was out this year and is licensed in North America by Funimation. At number 5, with 12,449 copies sold, Volume 24 of High School DD. So our third and final light novel that remains on the list from last week. You know, no English license for the light novels. The Yen Press is releasing the manga. They're releasing the 10th volume of the manga in December. Again, this is one of those series that, for whatever reason, we've gotten the manga, but not the light novels. I think I talked about this a little bit in the Kono light novel Gasugoi videos, how it seems to all come back to Fujimi Shobo, that a lot of these titles, Fujimi is printing them, publishing them, and for whatever reason, there just doesn't really seem to be any Fujimi titles that are getting released in English. And a lot of people, when I've done research on this, a lot of people seem to point to the failure of Tokyopop, because Tokyopop, Fujimi was one of the first companies that kind of invested some really A-list titles in Tokyopop, which then just folded when they'd only put out maybe 3 volumes. I think one series they got to like 8 or 9, and then folded when there was only like 4 volumes left. Like, it just seems like it was a mess, and so it just kind of screwed over all of us that are truly dedicated fans that would be buying this stuff if it were available today. I keep crossing my fingers and hoping that with more and more light novels coming over and the successful completion of series, or, you know, series getting into the late volumes and still going strong, that maybe that'll break that barrier, but, well, only time will tell on this one. At number 4, with 12,921 copies sold, Volume 13 of Tsuki ga Michibiku Isekai Dochu, which is also known as Moon-Led Journey Across Another World. And we've seen this on the list before. There's no English license for the light novel. High school student Misumi Makoto is called into a fantasy world by the god Tsukuyomi in order to be a hero. However, the goddess ruling the world isn't as thrilled to have him there and kicks him to the edge of the world. Tsukuyomi declares that Makoto is free to find his own way after Makoto is abandoned by the other goddesses. So we talked a little bit about this. So it's basically like you're summoned by one god to be a hero, and then another goddess is like, nah, and so she kicks you all the way to the other side of the world, and basically your goal at this point is just to try and fight your way back. So yeah, 13 volumes. There's really not a lot on this series, to be honest with you, which is kind of weird when there's 13 volumes. But yeah, so that seems to be where that one is. And like I said, volume 12, I know I did cover on the list in a previous video, a couple of, well, I guess months ago now at this point. Now at number 3, when we're speaking about this, and now this is the one that I was saying, like, we had talked a bit about, and I believe it came out around the same time, and that is with 14,202 copies sold. It's volume 5 of Around 40 Kenja no Isekai Saikatsu Niki, which is Almost 40 Sages Otherworld Diary. So this is the one we talked about before. If you remember, the cover had a about 40-ish-year-old guy looking like a badass riding a motorcycle. There's no English license for this, and surprisingly, with 5 volumes out, and as I said, I know for a fact volume 4 was in the top 10, now volume 5 has been, so I mean, it sells well. there's almost nothing available in English. So what I did was I kind of translated the synopsis of book 1 into about 6 different computer type translations online and kind of melded together. And this is sort of what I came up with. There may be some errors, I apologize, but it's the best that I could come up with, the mishmash that I got out. Since losing his job to restructuring, 40-year-old Satoshi Osamu has spent his days delving deep into the game Zero's Merlin. Eventually, he becomes so powerful in the game, he develops his own original magic and is able to conquer the game's final boss with ease. But an accident occurs while logging in, and his life appears to end. Instead, he finds himself standing in an open green field where he is confronted by a goddess. She says he has transcended the limits of the game and can now live his life in a new world with his powers intact. In this new world, he is seen as a wise man and is approached by a duke to tutor a young girl untalented in magic. Thus begins the almost 40-year-old sage's different world diary. And I know we talked about this and we were saying like, it's kind of cool to have, I mean, we of course have reincarnation ones where like you have older characters that are reincarnated and then their new reincarnation is a teenager. This one, like to have a 40-year-old reincarnated as a 40-year-old, to be an adult, to be acknowledged as an adult still in this other world, it sounds kind of cool. And I like that kind of whole like idea that he's mentoring. I hope it doesn't become like a creepy relationship, but nonetheless, I think this one sounds kind of interesting. And like I said, just having an older protagonist, that alone makes me kind of curious to see what this series would be about. I know at least 1 or 2 of you have put this on 7 Seas when they put out their surveys to see what people want to have licensed. I know a few of you have put this on there. I think it would be a really cool series. I'd like to check it out. Maybe if it keeps racking up volumes into the top 10s, maybe we'll see it at some point. At number 2, with 14,227 copies sold, Volume 21 of Campione. There's no English license for the light novels or the manga. There was a 13-episode anime which aired in 2012. It's licensed in North America by Sentai Filmworks, and the anime covers volumes 1 up to parts of volume 6. A Campione, a god slayer, is a supreme ruler. Since he can kill a celestial being, he can therefore call on the sacrosanct, divine powers wielded by the gods. A Campione, a god slayer, is a lord. Since the power to kill a deity is in his hands, he therefore looms over all mortals on earth. A Campione, a god slayer, is a devil. Since for all mortals who live in the world, none can assume a power to match his. Kusanagi Godo is a 16-year-old boy who played catcher and fourth hitter in senior league baseball until an injury put an end to it in junior high. As the spring break of his 3rd and last year of junior high came around, he got involved in an adventure and ended up slaying one of the heretic gods, Verathrogna. Thus, he became the youngest and 7th Campione. Now that he is a Campione, a god slayer, young Godo must defeat the troublemaking gods with the help of his followers. So obviously a long-running series, 21 volumes. The anime came out like several years ago, and I know volume 20 was on this list earlier. So, I mean, it's just a series that keeps doing okay. It does well. I really, again, like this is another series that has been long running and, you know, we still don't have a license for. I don't know. It seems to me like a lot of the longer, older running series, unless it's a name like Reki Kawahara, that, you know, there's just continually ongoing anime of the book series. I don't get this feeling that we're going to get a lot of these. Like, I think it seems based on the licenses that we're seeing the majority of, it seems like the companies are really focusing on newer titles that aren't so far ahead. Even titles that only have maybe 3 or 4 volumes in Japan, you know, or like, you know, less than 10 at least. I don't know whether that's because they're making that conscious decision because there's been less sort of fan translations, and so therefore less chance that their products will have been pirated, or people won't buy them because they've already read translations, or whether it's just because they feel that stuff that is newer is more likely to get anime seasons, which means it's more likely to be more marketable because it'll be in front of fans a lot more than these older running series that, you know, clearly aren't getting another season of an anime or anything like that. I'm not too sure. I mean, I can see, I guess, that it would be that way, I guess. It's just unfortunate because there are a lot of really awesome long-running series that are older that it would be great to get as fans, but I just kind of feel like we're not going to. Finally, at number 1 with 16,613 copies sold, Volume 18 of Madan no O to Vanadis, which is Lord Marksman and Vanadis. No English license for the light novel. The manga is licensed by 7 Seas, and there was a 13-episode anime which is licensed in North America by Funimation, and the anime covered up to Volume 5 of the light novels. In times of war, set in Western Europe, Eleonora Viltaria, one of the 7 Vanadis of Zecht, leads the war into Brunei. There are actually 7 Vanadis, named like this because they each received a powerful weapon from the dragon to reign over 7 territories, each possessing their own. The power of the Vanadis causes dread and fear toward their enemies. An earl in the service of the country of Brunei, a young archer called Tigra, got a taste of it after he was defeated on the battlefield by Ellen, or Eleonora. However, Ellen decided to spare his life after seeing his skills. In exchange, he is asked to serve her. Now, I actually saw the anime of this and I thought it was halfway decent. I haven't read the manga. And again, at 18 volumes, it's a longer running series. And this sort of falls into what I was just talking about, right? Like the likelihood that we're going to get these series that are older, that have multiple volumes, it just seems kind of low, and it's really too bad. I mean, I kind of hope that if anything, with things like J-Novel Club publishing electronically, even now 7 Seas starting to reissue older volumes like, you know, Boogie Pop, like they just did electronically, even Yen On is releasing like one of their older titles, Kiele. That's being released on ebook in December. We're starting to see them, you know, go through their back catalogs with 7 Seas and Yen On, and with J-Novel, their whole thing is publishing electronically. And I kind of hope that with maybe some of these series, these companies that even if they feel that the cost of printing would be perhaps not worth the investment, that maybe we can at least get electronic copies. And in the case of J-Novel Club in particular, I mean, if their titles sell really well, 7 Seas seems pretty willing to start picking up the publication, the physical publication. So I kind of like hope in a way that, you know, as we see ebooks, you know, coming along, and as these light novel companies get more and more into ebooks, particularly like the more traditional publishers that have, let's face it, a little bit more financial backing to them, that maybe they'll start looking at these sort of older catalog titles and at the very least putting them out electronically, and if the sales prove it, then, you know, never know, we might get a print release. I know that's maybe kind of a pie in the sky, kind of got my fingers crossed, hopes up kind of view of things, and I know not all of you are fans of ebooks, but I mean, the way I look at it is that if I have a choice between reading a crappy fan translation on a computer screen or reading a well-translated, well-formatted ebook on my iPad, I mean, the choice is pretty clear, right? So, I mean, if I have no choice, like I'm still good with getting it in whatever way that we can. So those are your top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan for the week of November 20th to the 26th, 2017. I will be back here next Saturday to do this list all over again, and we'll see how many of this week's titles manage to hang in there for the rest of the week. So if you're brand new to the channel and you love light novels, you should consider subscribing. I do this countdown every single week, as well as doing 2 to 3 light novel reviews on a weekly basis as well. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.